Welcome back to the Bluegrass on this beautiful June afternoon. I'm out walking dogs, and we have the sprinkler set up so we can simulate walking in the rain since it hasn't been raining much here lately. But anyway, what we're going to talk about today is, what exactly constitutes responsible and ethical breeding, okay? And the reason we're going to talk about that is look at this nice little dog, right? Okay, so this is June. June is a doodle, I always say of somewhat questionable heritage, because June is supposedly the cross between a mini Aussie doodle and a medium-sized Bernedoodle. In other words, she has some poodle in her, she has some Bernedoodle in her, and who knows where that came from, and she has some Australian Shepherd in her, okay? Now, when I make videos about doodles, a lot of times, it seems like I'm being hard on them because I'll talk about the fact that maybe they're here because they bark a little too much, or they're, having housebreaking problems, or maybe they've bitten the neighbor or some little kid in the neighborhood, And all of those things, they're kind of true, right? I mean, that does pop up a lot with these doodles. And in the comment section, it never fails that people start running doodles down. They call them mutts. They say people just breed them for the money, that the breeders aren't responsible or ethical. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of flesh that out real quick. Okay, number one, I don't have a bias against doodles in general. And instead of saying doodles, maybe we should say poodle crosses, okay? I understand that there are a lot of people out there looking to get a dog that's very pattern cognizant, easy to motivate, and has a type of coat that doesn't, shed a lot. So it doesn't, end up getting stuff all over your house, okay? Now here's my theory on how the doodles end up with such a bad reputation. Number one, people that are looking for dogs that don't shed have a tendency to be looking for a dog that's kind of like an accessory for their household, And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying, like the people that come here and they bring a Labrador Retriever, or they bring a Malinois, or they bring a German Shorthair, usually those people are planning on getting out and going on adventures with their dogs and getting lots of socialization and having outdoor adventures. And to have those adventures, of course, they have to do a good job with their basic obedience and their socialization during the formative period, okay? With these doodles, I think a lot of people buy them because they want to have a dog, okay? But they're not the kind of people that necessarily see themselves as going out and doing lots of stuff with the dog. And so these dogs, unfortunately, oftentimes miss out on basic obedience and socialization during the important formative times, okay? That's one of the reasons I'm standing here with a sprinkler on today, because I need to walk this dog in the rain, because when she first got here, she wouldn't even go in the grass, okay? Now, when she leaves, she's going to be fine with the rain. Even if I have to make it rain with a sprinkler, she's going to be fine going in the grass. She's going to be fine going on adventures. So it wasn't a doodle problem. It wasn't necessarily a temperament problem, okay? It was the fact that she's under-socialized, okay, and she didn't have a good basic obedience foundation. So the things that a lot of times people attribute to genetics is really an absence of formal training and improper expectations in terms of the socialization required to make a dog confident. It really is that simple. All right, so this is a doodle, and that's my basic argument, is that the doodles get an unfair reputation because the type of people that buy doodles oftentimes don't realize how important early training is, okay? But now we're going to get another kind of dog, and I'm going to talk to you about the responsible and ethical breeding aspect of the argument. So here's where we're starting. I think doodles can be fine. And I think a lot of doodle breeders, poodle cross breeders, are doing the best that they can do. That doesn't mean they're all doing a good job. And that doesn't mean that I'm pro all poodle crosses, okay? But on average, I feel like poodle crosses with all the boxes checked in relation to basic obedience and socialization make fine dogs and have some benefits over other types of dogs in certain situations. Now we're going to get my favorite kind of dog out, and we're going to kind of compare and contrast the breeding and buying considerations. Okay, all right, very good. All right, now I have a golden retriever in my way. That's not my favorite. These are my favorite labs. Now this one, of course, is a yellow lab, and everybody that knows me knows that this yellow lab, he actually wants to be black, but he'll do for this demonstration. Okay, so just a second ago, you know, I got a June out, who's a Poodle Cross, and I'm talking about, you know, how, listen, a lot of Doodles are really nice dogs. They just don't get the right kind of start early in life because their owners don't understand how important basic obedience and early socialization is. Right now, I want to not pretend, okay, that they don't have temperaments that are more on the worried, frightened, anxious side, because they do, okay? This dog right here, okay, this type of dog, nice English Labrador Retriever, doesn't have to have tons of socialization. It doesn't have to have tons of obedience when they're young, okay, to turn into a really happy, confident dog with a great attention span and pretty good obedience, okay? They're really easy, okay? And I really love them. I mean, these are my favorite dogs to have at the kennel, okay? So I don't want anybody, you know, taking what I said in the first part of the video and pretending that I think that in the nature versus nurture argument, that nurture is more important than nature, okay? You can't escape genetics, right? You take this dog here, or dogs like this, okay, and you don't socialize them much with their young, they're still going to be happy, outgoing dogs because they have happy, gregarious, outgoing temperaments, okay? So I'm not at all trying to say that the Doodles can have the exact same temperaments as other dogs. But what I am saying is that the Doodles have some advantages over other dogs, you know, from given perspectives. Let's take this dog for instance. This is a great dog. You know, he loves attention, he loves children, he loves to do things, but he's going to be kind of a big, heavy dog. My daughter can't just pick him up, put him on the kayak with her. She can't just, you know, hold him in her lap when she's going to carpool line. If she doesn't like taking him in her room where all her nice stuff is because his hair gets all over the room. You know, she can't, if this dog, once he gets a little bit older, if he decides to pull on the leash because he's excited, my daughter's a very small person, she can't hold him back very easily, okay? So there's a lot of advantages to the various types of Doodles. I'm not saying that those advantages in the aggregate outweigh the advantages provided by Labrador Retrievers, because of course, Labrador Retrievers are my favorite, okay? But we have to allow for the fact that just because something's your favorite, it doesn't mean it's someone else's favorite. Just because something has the attributes that you think are important doesn't mean that those attributes are something that weighs heavily in another person's decision-making process. Okay? Now let's expand that concept to breeding, okay? Come here, nerd. Now look here. Now so this is something that you'll see with these English chubbies. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it's a little bit hot out here, okay? And so when it's a little bit hot out here, when it's a little bit hot, come on nerd, you can do it. These dogs get pretty tired, okay? And so the people that breed these show line Labrador Retrievers, what in the States people have a tendency to refer to as English Labrador Retrievers, right? The people that breed the field bred dogs think these dogs are like lazy and kind of sometimes they'll, you know, I'll be honest with you, they say they're worthless, right? Okay, but for the people that like this kind of dog, then it's just the most awesome dog in the world because they're friendly, they're outgoing, they have a lot of confidence, and they love to do stuff. They just don't like to do stuff for very long, and then they go lay down in the house and put their head over on the air conditioning vent, okay? So even within the purebred aficionado like aspects of the dog world, right? The people who have a tendency to throw the Doodles under the bus the most, okay? They don't even agree on the specific breeds, okay? Because if you were honest, this type of Labrador Retriever and the field type of Labrador Retriever are two different kinds of dogs, and they should be separated into two different kinds of breeds, two different distinct breeds. Same thing with colorations. Look, see this dog? He's white. He's not golden. You see what I'm saying? This is a golden retriever that's white. And if you ask people what he is, they say, well, you know, like if I ask somebody that just comes down here, down the hill, I'd be, what is he? And they'll be, I don't know, Great Pyrenees. Well, you know, they don't know, right? Okay, he's a golden retriever that's bred to be white, English cream, whatever they want to call it, okay? So one of the things that aggravates me when it comes to this ethical and responsible breeding thing is the people who claim to be ethical and responsible, they never agree that anyone else meets those standards, but when I ask them for a list of what makes a breeder ethical and responsible, nobody ever has the list. They talk in generalities, temperament, health, blah, 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 okay? Listen, if you're breeding a dog that has a smushed face, health is not your concern. If you're breeding a dog that's bow-legged, Health is not your concern, right? If you're breeding a Labrador Retriever, right, there are things to consider about Labrador Retrievers that you should start off with that not everybody agrees on, right? Is it ethical to breed a Labrador Retriever that doesn't actually retrieve? He's just an awesome companion. Should we call it a Labrador companion dog? Hey, and then if you breed a Labrador Retriever that looks like a dart, like you could pick it up and throw it at a wall and it would stick in the wall because his nose is so pointed, like, is that responsible? You know, if you breed a Labrador Retriever to have so much drive that it can't not fetch during the day, it's whining, pace and all that, is that I don't know what responsible is. Do you guys really know what responsible is? Okay, so this is what I think when it comes to that stuff. Until you can articulate what ethical and responsible is and everybody agrees on it, that kind of term, we should kind of put that away. So my basic theory is this, that breeders, and some of them have more discernment and some of them have less, but the good ones do their best to breed good dogs to good dogs. And the breeders of various types of poodle crosses, okay, they're breeding what they consider a good dog to a good dog that happens to not be a close cousin. And people that breed these kind of dogs, okay, they're breeding what they consider a good dog to another good dog who happens to be a close cousin and who, when it reproduces, will reproduce dogs of a similar physical and mental type. Okay, so that's what a breed is, guys. A breed is when you take and you breed closely related dogs to closely related dogs so that the genetic divergence from litter to litter, from generation to generation, is extremely small. And sometimes you end up with some really good dogs, and sometimes you end up with some dogs that are not so good, but they always have a very similar type. When you start doing poodle crosses, when you start doing out crosses, okay, you can end up with dogs that are good dogs, but there's quite a bit of genetic divergence from generation to generation or from litter to litter, okay? But if you're the kind of person that has a very broad definition of what constitutes a good dog, so you don't care if some of the good dogs are this tall and some of them are this tall, and you don't care if some of them are like light colored and some of them are dark colored. You just want them to not shed a lot, and you want them to be, have to be physically and mentally resilient. You want them to pick up things quickly. Right? You can be very responsible, and you can just say to yourself, I'm going to find some good dogs, I'm going to breed them to other good dogs, and then we're going to have a whole litter of good dogs that look kind of different and act a little bit different. Okay? I don't know that we can say that those people aren't being ethical and responsible. Okay? And the people that take these dogs and say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this head shape, to get this coloration, and to get this temperament, okay, are more ethical. Okay? So that's just kind of what I wanted to say. Number one, like most of the doodles, your interactions with those dogs, if you really want to know what they're like, you have to look at the ones who have had the same exact type of raising as other breeds of dogs that you're familiar with. And I can tell you from experience that people that buy short hairs do more with their dogs, on average, or the ones I see, than people that buy doodles. Okay? I can tell you this too, people that are really worried about dogs that shed a lot, they don't go outside and do a lot. So like you could have two people in the same neighborhood, same kind of house, same job, same everything. Okay, but their dogs are living two different lives completely when it comes to terms of basic obedience and socialization. So if you want to really know what a doodle's like, you got to go be around some that have had proper early training. Okay, then you can compare them across the way. And then I think what you would start to understand is that there's a lot that goes into this whole doodle argument, rather than they're mutts or they're just, you know, breeders only breeding for money. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but that happens with the purebred dogs also. Okay? So what I'd like for you to do is put your thoughts in the comment section below. Tell me what your experience has been with these different types of dogs, and then tell me whether I'm right and wrong about whether or not the type of people who buy certain types of dogs do a better or worse job in terms of early training and socialization. And then I'd like for you to tell me whether or not that argument is influencing the way that you think about judging these various types of dogs. Okay, I'm just trying to start a discussion so that when I make videos about dogs, people don't have to jump in the comment section and just say hateful things. Why jump in the comment section and just say hateful things when you could jump in the comment section and say something constructive and something that we could all learn from? Why throw the ethical and responsible label on the people you like and then put the not ethical and not responsible on people you don't like? You know, because that's what you're doing if you don't have a rock solid definition of what constitutes responsible and irresponsible breeding. All right, I look forward to hearing what you have to say, and I'll see you guys next week.